If you're struggling with sugar cravings, then willpower won't get you anywhere. Want to know what works better than willpower? You'll learn how to end sugar cravings without willpower or feeling restricted in my free online masterclass on Tuesday, August 25th, 2026. Go to sugarcravingsfree.com to register for the free masterclass. Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast, the podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman. And my guest today is Sharon, who spent years using sugar to add a little sweetness to a life that felt anything but sweet. Sharon tells how her relationship with sugar was about much more than food. And when she finally started connecting the dots between sugar, her emotions, and how she wanted to live her life, this new outlook changed much more than what she was eating. We'll get to my chat with Sharon in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to sugarcravingsfree.com and download your 5 tips today. And while you're at sugarcravingsfree.com, why not take the Cravings Quiz? I created this Cravings Quiz specifically to help you start thinking more deeply about what triggers your cravings. And when you do this quiz, you'll get your personalized score as well as my practical tips to help you take your first step to get rid of cravings. Those free resources are at sugarcravingsfree.com. And to go even deeper, buy my new book, Break Free from Sugar Cravings, in either paperback, ebook, or audiobook format, available now on Amazon in most countries. Type in the search bar, Break Free from Sugar Cravings, or just my name, Netta Gorman. And on social media, come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. All right, so let's get to my chat with Sharon. So today I'm speaking with Sharon. And Sharon, can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what you used to eat when you were a child?
Yes, so I actually grew up just outside New York City. And, I guess when I was growing up, there was not fast food. So that's one thing. So, we ate somewhat standard. My mother cooked almost every day. But we also did eat some fruit and vegetables all the time. I do remember distinctly snacking on like carrots and celery or having an apple if I was hungry. We also had our share of cookies and candy and cake. I definitely was a prolific baker when I was a young woman. I'd say a late teen or young adult. I'm the youngest child in my family, so my siblings got really great care packages when they went to college. Lots of cookies and brownies and sweets.
And did you get any?
Not so much.
How many are there, brothers and sisters?
One of each.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. So, you ate relatively healthily, and you were saying that there wasn't much processed food around. What decade did you grow up in?
Yeah, so I grew up mostly in the 70s.
Hmm.
Mhm. And yeah, so I mean, but we ate meat and chicken and fish. We actually would go fishing usually on the weekends. And
Right.
so when I was growing up, the standard was parents would hire a babysitter and like go out to the movies or maybe dinner and a movie. In our house, we'd stay home on a Saturday night and watch mom and dad clean fish.
Okay, fine. And did you like all that natural food or whole food?
Yeah, I think I pretty much did. It's funny, just the other day, for whatever reason, I was thinking I actually really liked liver and onions on the
Mm,
occasion that my mother would make it.
me too.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's something most people like don't like, but I'm like, yeah, I really did kind of enjoy the flavor of it.
yeah, I still do. I love it. Yeah, it's true. It's not very common. And so uh, you didn't have any contact with any processed foods at all?
Oh no, I wouldn't say that. As I said, we definitely ate candy, cookies, cake. Sure. And yes, some of it was store-bought, some of it was homemade. Oh, definitely lots of store-bought cookies and cake.
Okay.
Um, so we had a big old ceramic cookie jar, and both my brother and I were masterful at raising the lid without making a sound so you could dunk your hand in there and pull the cookies out. Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
I got that down.
And then when you got a little bit older, late teens, 20s, did your eating habits change?
They did, not so much with regard to the sweets. But yes, in high school, I literally woke up one morning and had the thought, I've probably had enough meat to last me a lifetime.
Hmm,
And I just decided in that spur of the moment to become vegetarian.
okay.
And and again, this was back in the 70s. So at that time, a vegetarian meant somebody who survived on what we called GORP, good old raisins and peanuts.
Huh.
Now we would call it trail mix or
Uh-huh.
granola. But then it was very simple. Apples and peanut butter was a staple. Pasta, those kinds of things. So that was the last year that I lived at home, which my parents were not very supportive of, but I kind of did a lot of my own thing. I was going to school full time, I was working part time, involved in lots of extracurriculars, all of that.
Okay.
So that definitely was a big change and then carried forward with me to college. I went away for college and lived in a dormitory. So they had food available. I was on a meal plan. Again, not very vegetarian friendly.
Yeah.
So, I think that while my eating habits changed, I think my nutrition probably took a nosedive in some ways, even though some would say a vegetarian is a healthier diet. But we didn't have the knowledge then that we do now about how to eat a healthy vegetarian diet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not enough just to cut meat. I imagine, you've got to know how to replace that animal protein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, still had the sweet tooth.
And you still had the sweet tooth. Was that problematic or not?
I think it depends how we define problematic.
Mm,
And I think that a lot of times these things don't catch up to us for a long time. So
yeah.
I think that when people are in their late teens, early 20s, even all the way through the 20s, your body can really compensate a lot. And I definitely ate my share of candy and so forth. I was never a real athletic person. I did start to maybe work out a bit more when I was in college. I think some of my dorm mates would go to the gym, and so I'd kind of tag along and do some sit-ups and some weights, but I never played on sports teams or anything. I
Hmm.
think I was always a little bit chunky.
Okay. Yeah. And so what were you studying at college?
I was studying graphic design. Well, actually, I went in with the hard sciences because of my family. Your job was to graduate high school and then become either a doctor or a pharmacist. Those were kind of the choices. But I was a horrible math student, still am.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for calculators everywhere. So I started out in the sciences, and when I clearly couldn't cut it, I actually switched majors to graphic design. And so that
Great.
was my first career was graphic design.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Well done for fighting against all those expectations.
Yeah, yeah. And graphic design was rough. I was in a very targeted program. So we were 60 people in my program, and I pulled a lot of all-nighters. So I was never one to drink caffeine. I'm still not, but that meant that I survived on sugar. And I
Uh-huh.
relied on sugar to get me through a lot of those all-nighters.
Okay. And how did it get you through exactly?
Oh, because we know that sugar provides, and I'm going to use air quotes here, which our listeners can't hear, energy,
Hmm.
right? It's fake energy. It gives us that sugar high, which the listeners do know about. And so it's a question of can I sustain that high long enough to get all this work done, right?
And
And
could,
then just have a crash.
yeah. And could you? Did it sustain you?
Yeah, it did.
Mm. And so you got through all the all-nighters, which many of us who've been to college understand. And what about the crash? How did that affect you?
Yeah, the crash would just be like once I got through the all-nighter and maybe a day or so of class, it would just be, oh man, I just need to sleep. And sometimes it would also just be kind of foggy brained, kind of zoning out rather than being able to pay attention and be studious.
Yeah, yes. Oh, definitely. So, was there any moment that you thought, um, maybe I need like a better source of energy, or you didn't think about it?
Nope, didn't even think about it, was not on the radar at all.
Hmm. Hmm.
And again, I think when we're young, our bodies are resilient. And, when you're in your 20s, you're just kind of going along for the ride. You're, trying to figure out this whole life thing and what am I supposed to do? And independence, which is scary and also very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah. I mean, you're invincible in your 20s.
Yes,
Mm.
yes.
So, when did you start realizing that the effects of sugar were actually affecting you?
I would say it was quite some time later. I think, again, all of my 20s, I still was fairly chunky. Um, and then actually, when I turned 30, I joined the US Peace Corps,
Oh,
which is going overseas. I lived in Africa for 3 years and I taught in a rural school.
wow.
And so that was interesting in that there was not a lot of packaged food available unless people would send me care packages, or occasionally I would go into the city and then marvel at it, but it was quite expensive for what I was making. Basically I was a volunteer.
Hmm.
So I did have a lot of people send me M&Ms, which was one of my food choices at the
Uh-huh.
time. I definitely, like I said, had that sweet tooth. But I still didn't really pay much attention to nutrition and actually be mindful of what I was eating or connect the dots to know that food is the fuel that my body runs on. I just had not made that connection at all. And so I think it was really when I came back from Peace Corps and I had a very difficult entry coming into American society.
Hmm.
Many of my friendships did not survive. And it was just a very big culture shock and very difficult.
Hmm.
Um, Persevered nonetheless, found a different career. I had wanted to change careers. And I then went through a series of very difficult events that happened. I had a broken engagement. I had a fire in my home.
Whoa.
My brother committed suicide. And then I was in a car accident that should have been fatal. The EMTs still don't know how I walked away from it. And so that brought me into this period of great depression. And that fueled this desire for sugar. I
Mm.
think during that time, I would actually, can't believe I'm going to admit this, I would make up brownie batter and I wouldn't even bother baking it. I would just eat it like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
I guess at that point, it was also pretty popular to be eating cookie dough without baking the cookies.
Yeah.
There was that phase, at least in society here. So all of that really kind of fueled my sugar addiction. And I grew heavier and heavier and heavier. But because of the depression, I still wasn't connecting the dots and still wasn't really interested in doing anything about it.
Yeah. And how old were you when you came back and had this difficult entry back to the States?
Yeah, I was 33 when I came home.
Okay. All right. So when did it hit you, or when did you connect the dots?
I think that certain things started to connect as I was going through this period of depression. And I remember distinctly one day just sitting on my couch, reading through a health magazine that I got. It was quarterly. I'd seen it a million times before. And I just saw an ad for weight loss. And I had always struggled with my weight. And I thought, okay, that's where the key is. If I lost weight, I'd be happier.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Isn't that the thing we often say to ourselves? But beyond that, I realized that I was spending all of my free time just crying and wallowing about what a horrible life I had. And there was just something in that moment that clicked in my brain. And I said, I cannot spend the next 40 or 50 years wallowing about what a horrible life I have.
Mm.
That is not what I want for myself. And I guess there was something in this ad that made me feel like if I saw this naturopath, I would have some support on the journey. Again, I was very alienated from my family and I didn't have support there. And I just felt very alone in my life. So there was something in that moment. And I actually did make an appointment with that naturopath and I did work with her for a while. And I think that really helped me to start connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I had been vegetarian. Actually, by that point, I had become mostly vegan, but I still wasn't truly connecting nutrition with fueling my body.
Uh-huh. I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar. And how did the naturopath help you?
So she wanted me to do a 30-day progressive cleanse. And it was actually one of these box cleanses where you're eating some food the first week and starting to take these bentonite shakes and some herbs. And eventually by the last week, all you're doing is drinking some kind of herb cleanse and taking herbal capsules. And I looked at the box and I really thought about it hard. And on the box, it said like the good, better, and best approach to using this cleanse. And good was vegetarian, better was vegan, and best was raw vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And I don't know where this came from. Let's call it divine intervention. But something in my brain said, well, if I'm going to do this cleanse, I certainly want to do the best version that I can do. But this cleanse is 30 days. What am I going to do on day 31?
Uh-huh.
And what am I going to do beyond day 31? Because
Absolutely.
that would be where the real change happens.
Quite so.
And so actually I started changing some of what I was eating before the cleanse because I realized that after the cleanse is when the big change has to happen. And I wanted to be comfortable with some of those habits before I did this cleanse so that the after part would be a natural progression, not that the after part would be when I'm starting to maybe kind of figure things out.
Yeah. Wow. That's
So
smart.
I started switching to raw vegan. And then with the guidance of this naturopath, I did this 30-day cleanse. It involved a lot of colonics, which may or may not be for some people. And it just really kind of set me on a path of looking at things differently. And it was not only food, but it went beyond food and beyond the physical body that I started to look at how I am conducting myself in my life.
And what did you discover when you started doing that?
Well, it was really interesting. I had the desire to lay on my floor every single day, and I imagined myself breathing in like this yellow energy from the earth. And when I exhaled, I literally could see this gray, almost smoke coming out of my body. And
Whoa.
I had no idea what I was doing. It was not somebody leading me through a guided meditation. I just had the desire to do this, and it just came out of my imagination. But I started to feel more grounded and more supported.
Amazing. That's amazing. So unexpected, but still it
Yeah.
happened. And what's the connection between what you were experiencing, what you just described, and sugar?
So, the sugar, I think, was just covering up what was going on. I did, and sometimes I still do, eat from boredom rather than from hunger.
Hmm.
And my food of choice was sugar.
Uh-huh.
So kind of sidestep for a minute. So I'm a board certified holistic health practitioner and a nutritionist. And when I work with people, I see patterns of what they're choosing to eat and when they're choosing to eat it. And so what I see with folks is some people get on what I call the sugar roller coaster. Some people get on what I call the sugar Ferris wheel, which is where they alternate between sugar and salty.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people, their food of choice does tend to be salty or spicy. So for me, it was sugar, which is really indicative of, I think, not having sweetness in my life. I didn't feel loved by my family. I didn't feel loved by some of my friends. They weren't like super duper close. I felt very alone at this point in my life. So I think the sugar was trying to fill in my life with sweetness.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes total sense. So, lots of us eat sugar for that very reason. We may not be aware of it like you became aware, but we do it all the same. So, what made you not just become aware of it, but I guess do something about it?
Right. Well, again, I think I was on this path of realizing I was depressed. I spent all my time crying and like moaning over what a miserable life I had, and I just didn't want that anymore.
Mm.
And I think that I finally was able to see there are other ways to live life. And even here back now that I was back in America, like there's another path I can take, and I have choice about that, which I think I didn't realize before. I grew up in a very codependent family where you were supposed to do A, B, and C, and here were the rules and perfectionism and obedience, not choice. And finally, it's like, you know what? I'm in my mid 30s now. I do have choice. And it's time to take responsibility for those choices. And
Yeah.
again, having a bit of scaffolding with that, with this naturopath, and having that support, and even just recognizing that this packaged product was supporting my body. Now, it was up to me to figure out some other supports for my mind and what I came to know as more energy or spirituality.
Yeah. Amazing. That's amazing. That's a huge breakthrough for you, life-changing, I would say.
Absolutely, absolutely. It changed everything.
Amazing. Amazing. And so did it change what you were eating as well?
100%. Yes. I embraced this raw veganism. And for folks that don't know, that means I eat uncooked vegetables, fruit, nuts, and seeds.
Hmm.
At that time, I was also eating fermented foods. I
Hmm.
don't eat them very much nowadays, but I will also say, just like, so vegetarianism When I was growing up, you were a vegetarian or you weren't. But later that developed into there's pescatarian and lacto-ovo vegetarian. And, we have all these micro labels.
Right.
And I think it's really that there are just different paths. The same, there are vegans, and some of them will have nothing to do with animal products. Some of them still eat honey. Some of them wear leather or don't wear leather. Same with raw veganism. There are many paths of raw veganism. Now, I didn't know that at the time, but it led me to study that. So I started in on one path, and then I wanted to become educated. I actually went to a couple of different centers to learn more about it. I also started learning more about this energy medicine and spirituality, and I ended up doing a 2-year program for that.
Wow.
And all of these things together are what led me to become board certified as a health practitioner.
Yeah.
But the raw veganism, at that time, it was very vegetable based for me. I'm now much more of a fruit based raw vegan. But again, it has to be a balanced diet. I see a lot of eating patterns where people are picking one of these labels and figuring out what it means and trying to be very dogmatic about what that label is, rather than deciphering what their individual nutritional needs are.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And actually, sugar is 100% vegan, isn't it?
Depends how it's processed.
Hmm. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sometimes they do process it with some animal product, and in the processing of it. And then, of course, people are eating that sugar in context. So in a candy bar, which might have milk chocolate in it, right? Or in a baked good, which might have eggs or honey in it.
Yeah, yeah. And really, what I'm getting at is that just because it's vegan, it doesn't mean it's necessarily good for you.
Oh, 100%. In fact, we have a festival here once a year, and my husband and I will always stop and just laugh out loud in disbelief because there is a vendor who sells organic cotton candy.
Hmm.
And we're always saying, like, oh my God, thank God it's organic. That means nothing. Junk is junk is junk.
Yeah,
Yes, you can absolutely live on vegan Oreos and pizza and ice
right.
cream.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And we were talking just before we began recording about emotional eating. And can you tell us a little bit about how you connected those dots between sugar and food and your emotions?
Well, I think I can. I will try. I don't think I've been asked that question exactly that way before. And I think that it was almost a bit reverse engineered for me because I was figuring out at the time and I didn't have such clear guidance. But I think as I was cleaning up my diet and what I was eating, I started recognizing that my emotions started changing.
Hmm.
And so I think as I began to release so much of the junk food and even the quote unquote healthy sugar snacks, I think I just started to feel better. I started to feel lighter. I was able to look at this misery and depression that I was sitting at and start to have the energy and the resilience to examine where did this come from and why was I allowing it to perpetuate?
That takes a lot of self-awareness, introspection, and courage, I think.
Yes, yes, it is not an easy path, not at all.
And would you say now, how could I ask how old you are now?
Yes, I am 61 years old.
All right. Would you say that now in your early 60s, you eat for your emotional needs or for your nutritional needs or anything else?
I would say I mostly eat for nutritional needs. I try to have what I eat match the exercise level that I'm having at a particular time. And I'm still human, and sometimes I still eat for emotion, or sometimes it's like, ooh, I can get a goodie.
Hmm.
I don't make a lot of goodies at home, and I don't keep a lot of sweets or processed foods at home.
Uh-huh.
But I will say if we go out to a place where a restaurant is available for the way that I eat, yes, I want to go. I want to indulge. And I don't feel bad about it at all because I know it's a small indulgence. And I think what I've also come to realize is that because it's a treat and not something I do regularly, even at this advanced stage, my body is forgiving about it.
Yeah, yeah. And also maybe your kind of self-image. In other words, you don't beat yourself up about it.
Right, right. But I think also a lot of women say, oh my God, menopause or post-menopause, I develop a pooch, I gained weight, I can't lose weight. I weigh the same as I did in high school.
Hmm.
And I think a big piece of that again is what I eat, but also because of having these things as a treat. And when you do that, again, the body is forgiving. It's not like I'm eating brownies every single day.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I often say, you deserve all the treats. They don't necessarily have to come from sugar, though.
Right, right. And processed sugar. Now,
Hmm.
I do think that a big piece of it is also that I have a lot of sweetness in my life right now, and some of that is the emotional connections that I have. But as I said, my eating patterns have also shifted quite a bit over the years. And somewhat recently, I have embraced having a lot more fruit and following a raw vegan path that involves a lot of fruit. And so I think that also is a huge quantity of sweetness. And when we bring that into our lives as healthy sugars, our body's able to process it very well.
Yeah. And it goes to show, I've had guests on this podcast that are all the way from 100% carnivore to like raw vegan like yourself and everything in between. And it just goes to show that it's not a one size fits all kind of situation. As you were saying earlier on, you need to find what works for you.
100%. Absolutely. It has to be bio individual.
Yeah. And you found what's good for you. It wouldn't work for me, but that's not the point. The point is not for us to be exactly the same.
Right. And the point is also to be mindful of our body through time. So what works for me now might not have worked 30 years ago.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, I found the same as well. And when I stopped eating sugar, it was almost 11 years ago, and I include flour as well and sweeteners. It's so weird because my actual tastes changed, like my taste buds changed, and I actually run away from sweet tastes now. I dislike them, and I was the world's number one sweet tooth. It's crazy how, as you were saying, we can change. There's like different chapters in our life.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you bring up a really good point about resetting our taste buds. And I think that is something that's very important to do periodically.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And it apparently only takes like 2 weeks or something for taste buds to regenerate.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But, bottom line is, it's possible for not just your tastes, but your outlook on life and what you want from life, like you were describing, and that includes food, obviously. It's possible for that to change because we're changing all the time.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I think it's also important to take on the totality of ourselves as a person and to recognize the intertwined nature of food, emotions, activity, self-talk, all of these things, physical and mental, emotional, spiritual, it all plays a role and they all work synergistically.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sharon. That's very inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you, Netta. I appreciate being able to meet with you today.
Same. Thank you. Oh, I really love Sharon's perspective on this, especially the idea that food, emotions, what you say to yourself, and how you live are all connected. And whether or not you're vegan, Sharon's story is such a good reminder that changing your relationship with sugar is actually about much more than what you put in your mouth. Because, in my experience, the vast majority of what drives our actions, including including cravings for sweet foods, goes on between our ears, in our head, which doesn't mean that the triggers aren't out there, but it's what we do in response to those triggers that makes all the difference. And that's exactly what we focus on in the Freedom from Cravings Formula program. Because I created this program specifically for women over 50 to help you go deeper into your relationship with food, especially sugar, and also into your relationship with yourself. And so that you can get guidance and support to help you stop emotional eating, break free from sugar cravings, slim down, and feel more in control around food. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed to help you ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, so that you can live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly, feel confident in your food choices, and so that you never have to feel like you're on some kind of restrictive diet. By the time you're 50 and over, you've spent decades looking after everybody else. And now it's your turn to take care of yourself. So let's chat about your specific needs and why you want to break free from cravings. Go to sugarcravingsfree.com to learn more about the Freedom from Cravings Formula program and to book a free video call with me to see if the program is a good fit for you. Go to sugarcravingsfree.com. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.